welcome to the Keystone Experience. Rob Warwick,
and Matt Pitzer.
Brought to you by Creek Archery. Find your passion and hunt it down.
And Hillview Motors, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Remember, Hillview has it in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What's going on, everybody? Hey, we got a special guest with us tonight, the owner of Wiebe Knives, Mr. Mark Steck. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. Yep. It's good to be alive.
So, what's new and exciting out there?
Well,
there's Bob.
Yeah, there's Bob the dog. He's always close to me. And what's new and exciting? Well, that's always a hard question for me because I like pretty much spring, and I like all the seasons, but we're in the change now where we're rolling into spring, and I'm in South Dakota, and it's a great state to live. Now I'm not going to trap rats this spring because there aren't any. It's just we're in a drought, we're in a cycle.
Okay.
So, and the Wiebe Knives keeps
your rats get that? Do you guys have the same stuff that we had here with our rats, like that spotted liver disease or whatever it was?
I don't think so. We don't like most places. We don't find rats in our creeks or streams anymore. But when the habitat is right, we find a lot of them in our marshes, and they do very well here. We're in that prairie pothole region in the northeast part of the state, and I travel up there when we have rats, and so there's an abundance of them when the habitat's right. I've lived here, since 1983. I bet I've seen 8 or 9 booms where they'll peak. I mean, other times you can find rats, and then you go through periods where everything dries out, and so that's when those marshes can rejuvenate. The bulrushes can come back. The seeds are there. They just need to get some sunlight. So it's all a cycle. It's nothing new when the rats disappear.
Okay. Yeah, I know we had there for a while, our rats got diseases and basically died off. Some places are starting to come back.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I don't think anybody's really pinned it down as to why the rats in streams have disappeared. I have hypotheses. I think everybody does, but nobody has pinned it down. But since about the turn of the century, our streams have gone dead with rats. I mean, a mink trapper used to catch a lot of rats, just trying to catch mink, and now, man, it's rare to catch a muskrat in a creek, and
Yep.
I don't know that anybody has a solid scientific answer, but something changed.
Well, that's just probably humans and changing their environment that's maybe pushing them out.
I believe it has something to do with humans. Yeah. I think you're right on. I think you're absolutely right. And again, I've heard every theory in the book, but for me, I need to see some data, some evidence, and so forth.
So you guys get to trap a lot in the springtime out there too, huh?
Yeah, we can trap rats and beaver through the end of April.
Yeah, our beaver season just ended. I think the end of March. That's one thing I've never trapped was beavers.
Well, here's a wild thing about South Dakota. One of the very few states where you can hunt beaver. And so it's traditional for people in the spring in particular in the spring when the water levels get high. You have that spring thaw, and all of a sudden the ice is floating, and the beavers get flooded out of their dens, and so the guys that time it right, they go hunting, and it is really exciting
Huh.
because you find you get a trained eye and you watch for them on the bank. Um, they're swimming, and it's not easy shooting either. And when you shoot them, you got to get to them quick in the boat because they'll sink on you. And so you're grabbing live beaver sometimes, and it's a hoot. I mean, it's really a hoot.
So do you trap beaver too?
I don't call myself a beaver trapper. I mean, I trap them if I have to. If a landowner wants me to, and it opens a door, I'll do it. We are another very unusual thing. South Dakota has about 15 state employed trappers.
Oh, okay.
It's a bizarre thing. It's very rare in the country, but that's what we have. And there's a hatred of coyotes among, in particular, West River, where we have a lot of sheep and cattle, but we have trappers that are mainly beaver trappers, um, and they really they just touch the problem areas. Um, people have different opinions on that. I think that there would be ample trappers coming forth if they contracted with them, but so be it. It's an unusual thing.
Now, is that because of the lack of trappers or the having too many animals that the state has hired people to do it?
I don't think it's either. I think it started. I don't know how far back it goes. I mean, it goes back before I moved here in '83. Um, I think it's one of those things that gets started, and I mean, the ranchers love it, but they do pay a tax for it. I think we all pay some kind of tax for it, but it's just never ended, and they do a lot of aerial hunting, and I mean, I know ranchers that have gone out of business in the sheep business because of coyotes, and so there's a generational hatred of coyotes uh, in certain parts of the state. Now, other parts they don't do any harm, but that dislike of coyotes is anywhere they're howling close to your property. I mean that social hunting. Can you get me a glass of water, please? That social hunting of coyotes, where they hunt in packs. I mean, it intimidates people, so they inherently don't like them.
Yeah, we got our share of them critters here in PA. We hunt them and trap them.
I mean, doesn't it? Excuse me. Doesn't it kind of freak you out, though? I mean, I've been involved with coyotes and fox for decades, but I get them close to my house a howling, and it sends shivers up my spine. It's kind of freaky, and so that's why people I don't they're intimidated by them, I think, and so coyotes are rarely welcome on people's property.
This was my first year trapping. Rob showed me and my two boys how to, run a trap line this year. And I understand that sentiment because one night I was going to check the traps. It was dark and I heard them howling way too close for my comfort.
Yeah.
As I'm walking through the woods in the dark with a flashlight and a 22 pistol revolver, I'm thinking, this is how it's going to end.
So were your boys with you on that night?
No, they weren't.
Okay.
No, they weren't with me that night. They were with their mother, but thankfully they weren't because it creeped me out. I can only imagine what it would have done to a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Oh, they would have remembered that forever.
Yeah.
But they understand that, and I understand it because my buddy's farm that we trap, his wife does not like them close to the house, and they're there. They're right behind the house because I've got cameras behind his place, and they're within 50, 60 yards.
Yep.
Well, Bob here, sitting next to me, Bob the dog. I mean, we have three big dogs. I don't worry about them, but Bob. I mean, those coyotes, they'll notice something, and if they'll plan an attack. They're smart enough where they'll plan an attack. They'll wait for a dog or a cat that they know is living close by, and when it's not dangerous for them, they'll pluck it.
Yep.
And there's plenty of videos that support that. Um, and I've done damage control for people where they've lost an animal, or in two cases where a small dog was attacked but not killed. And yeah, so coyotes are that way. And another interesting thing about coyotes, and I assume this is true for Pennsylvania as well, but I've been asking this question for a couple years now. I got to wondering, why did coyotes expand? I mean, I moved to South Dakota because of the high fox populations. And so I had about 17 years of that. And then roughly around the turn of the century again, the fox uh, died out for whatever reason, but they never came back. The coyotes filled it in. And that's true in Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah, our gray fox population is really low. You know, uh, we I'd say around the same time, we started noticing more and more coyotes, and our gray foxes started to dwindle. Now the red fox, our area where we're at, we're not known for a high population of red fox. Red fox are more out east towards Harrisburg, out that way.
Mm-hmm.
They got a higher population of them out there, but they got you know, less gray fox than what we had. But now those guys are saying their red fox numbers are dwindling. Our gray fox numbers are dwindling. So it has to do with the coyotes. The coyotes are definitely putting a hurting on them.
Why do you think they
And I did
expanded?
catch. I don't. There's theories here in Pennsylvania that the game commission brought them in for insurance companies. Uh, I've had other local trappers tell me that they've caught them with tattooed numbers on the inside of their mouth. Uh, I've shot, I don't know, I'm going to say close to 100 coyotes in the last 20 years. And I've never seen one with a tag on it. I've never seen one with a tattoo in its mouth. I just think they expanded. I mean, they're a predator that has nothing in this state that's going to hunt them except us. Because I ain't never seen a black bear mess with a coyote.
Mm-hmm.
And, black bears, I think the only thing they prey on is blackberries. They really don't bother anything. You know what I mean? They're not a vicious
Well, they're a
carnivore like
peaceful
everybody
animal
thinks
for
they
the
are.
most part.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time they want to run, they want to get away from you. They don't want a confrontation with you. But I've had coyotes that, you know, you'd swear up and down they were part timber wolf the way they act, you know, turn and come straight towards you. But I
Now,
don't know where they came from. They just all of a sudden came around.
if you go back in history to 1972, when 1080 was banned and it was used out in the western states, there there weren't any critters. It was so effective, and it was banned. It was big news, controversial, big news. And I suppose I was 15, but I remember reading about it, and I've gone back and reread about it. It's always linked to Nixon because he was president then, and he signed it into law. So that set itself up for the fur boom because all of a sudden bobcats, fox, and the western coyotes came back in huge numbers. And so if you remember guys like Gorman, he moved west right at that time. And and all of a sudden those animals are there and they're coming back quick. And so I've always wondered if that in like South Dakota, if that set the stage for coyotes in Minnesota too. I don't know. One of the best sources of coyote information I ever had, I have a couple good ones, but one was Odon Core, and he's from South Dakota. And you guys are from the east, and we kind of run in different circles. Odon was a federal trapper for years, and he participated in research studies as a trapper. And but Gary Jepson, I plan to ask him the question too, but because Gary will know. But what role did that have in the expansion of coyotes? And I was in Minnesota in the '70s, and we had a good fox population. I always thought, man, I'd like to catch a coyote. That'd be cool. Well, it's like all of a sudden you've got prairie dogs or something like that. I mean, you can't get rid of them, and
Yeah.
so so something happened there, and I'm intrigued by that. And you start getting older, and you lose your sources of good information because those guys older than you have passed on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to Tom, our fur biologist here in Pennsylvania that works for the state, because we're doing the reintroduction of the pine marten, and we had him on about that, and that's like a whole other topic here in Pennsylvania. Nobody wants to see this thing reintroduced. I I'm 100% for it. Not I don't. By the time we're allowed to get a population that we can trap, I'll be dead and gone. But I want to see them back. I think every animal that used to roam this state should be back.
I
You
can't
know,
see the downside of it.
there people are thinking they're going to kill all the turkeys, and
Oh,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just people not doing the research and being ignorant on the subject because I was that way until we talked with him. I thought, why do we need another predator introduced here? But after, talking with him and reading more about it, I'm with Rob. They're not going to do any real harm to anything that most hunters here in Pennsylvania care to hunt.
yeah. And as long as if they become really successful, as long as you're allowed to manage them, that's the key.
Right. So I guess we'll talk about the knives now.
All right.
The Wiebe knives, and me and Matt have got to use these things all season this year, and I will be the first to say that there is not another knife in my fur shed now.
So you're using the replaceable blade Wiebe knives, correct?
I got just about every knife that you make.
Okay.
I got all the new fleshing knives. We bought the game processing kits. We got the fillet knives. We got them all.
Wonderful.
And I mean, my wife took my 6-inch fillet knife and it's in the kitchen now. So I gotta get a new one.
Yeah, that's we have both sizes in our kitchen, along with the Tala. That's the big replaceable
Yeah.
blade knife. And my wife tried it, and so it sits on our cutting board, and she never closes it. We don't have small kids around, and that thing's a beast for anything, whether you're cutting onions or you're cutting meat. I mean, and the thing is, I mean, we were not the first with replaceable blade knives. We came out, and I think it's been 13 years now with Wiebe, and I started Wiebe because as a trapper, and at times, as that was a good part of my living, I had a lot of hours with a knife in my hand, and I knew what I liked, and I knew what I didn't like, and so that's how Wiebe evolved. And then maybe 10, 11 years ago, I was familiar with the scalpel blade knives, and I mean, you would think somebody like myself is good at sharpening knives, but I am very average. Um, I'm not a tradesperson, and I mean, I know guys that are anywhere from fantastic down to where they're always using dull knives, and and so I had tried some replaceable blade knives, and I thought, man, this is really it's easing up my workload. And I used to, in high school, for instance, you go to school, then you go run your traps, and then you skin. And my dad would come out and sharpen knives for me. He was a tradesperson. He was fair at it. He could get them sharp, and I could get them dull. And and so over the years, I mean, a lot of my skinning has been done on the road. It's been done in the western states, and so you're skinning off of. I always try and find a small tree of some sort I can hang critters by, and so you park your vehicle so you're blocking the wind and you're blocking people's view. And but sometimes it's not pleasant, and sometimes it's dark, and that sharp knife, man. If it's not sharp, you pay the price.
Mm-hmm.
You pay the price, and so the replaceable blade knife. When I first used one, and there's several different companies out there. When I first used one, I thought this is great. And our goal with Wiebe was to come out with replaceable blade knives that had uh, handles that I liked anyway. And the guys in my shop, they're all trappers and hunters, and we all were. And so we started producing Wiebe, the replaceable blade knives, with what I think are better handles. They're more comfortable handles. And the other thing is I tried to make them affordable, the replacement blades affordable. Um, you know, in our Tala, for instance, that's the big knife. I'm going to yell at my wife. Hey, Sandy. Oh, I think she stepped out. I was going to have her bring a Tala in here. But that's a beast of a knife. Well, I made the mistake when I came out with that 2 years ago of pricing that blade too high. And so now I'm able to bring in enough that I've lowered the price by almost 50-60%. Yeah, there it is. And so now you can get replacement blades for that for $1.25. And I'm going to tell you a little something else that I may not be a smart businessman, but I care about our customers. And so those replacement blades, don't hesitate to sharpen them. I mean, I wouldn't spend a lot of time sharpening them, but hone them up, and you can get a lot more use out of them once they go dull. When you hone a knife, you're just realigning that edge, and and that's all honing is. And I mean, I know guys that take it really far. One guy in our shop, he skinned 99 coons with one blade, but he was just showing off. Uh,
I
so,
think I got what 25 out of one blade this year.
so you were honing them up, or maybe even sharpening them a little bit.
Yeah, I got the workmate or work sharp.
Tool sharp, or yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I got that, and I hit it on there. And but I always try to tell, like trying to teach the boys this year in the shed. I said to them, I said, a sharp knife, you're going to put less holes
hey, do you mind?
in animals, and you get a dull knife. A dull knife where you're going to put a lot of holes in stuff, and you're going to cut yourself. I did taxidermy work for 20 some years, and you get an apprentice, and he would just keep going with the same knife over and over and over again. And I'd say, boy, you're gonna cut the face off of that critter. A couple seconds later, you hear him over there. Oh man, look over, you got a big hole because his knife was dull, and you're pushing too hard. You know. And I
Yeah,
wish
and
I would have had Wiebe knives back then when I was doing taxidermy work. They
yeah, a taxidermist needs a sharp knife, and you do have to respect a sharp knife too. I mean, you're can let's see here. Oops, there we go. This proves you're never too old to be stupid. That I cut the tendon in there, but last October, and it looks pretty cool. I think. Um, here's a normal one. My first thought when I did it is, well, I'm 66. I've had a lot of good use out of that finger. So, but and I wasn't using it for skinning. I was I was experimenting with different types of blades on it, and that's how it happened. So, guys, if you ask a guy about his injury, he's going to tell you. I know you didn't ask, but we like talking about our injuries.
Yeah. So all the knives, I mean, I'm trying to think the Tala, how many deer did I gut with that this year?
You did a couple. I have Batala. I loved it, but the deer I shot was a little small.
Yeah.
And that was an awful big knife to get up in there. And I was worried about my finger looking like that.
I forget how many I think I did 6 deer with the Tala, one blade.
Wow.
Yeah. And then
He's pretty efficient with a knife. When when he's gutting a deer out or skinning it, he's pretty efficient. Whereas
Yeah.
I went through a lot of replacement blades this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do learn how the on the replaceable blade knives, you learn as you go in terms of what dulls them the quickest.
yeah.
In around that head, you want plenty of tension on the hide, and you want to watch your angle you're cutting at. Around the feet, that can dull them too, and so you get a little better as you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I found out real quick that a raccoon skull will dull a knife out very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I need to ask you a question here. I shouldn't steer it away from Wiebe, but I get around the country quite a bit, and this had to be a decade or more ago, but I was just flabbergasted when I was told you can't hunt in Pennsylvania on Sunday. Correct? Am I right?
So you were talking about, earlier with the paid trapping for the state and how you don't know when it started or how it started. It's one of them old blue laws, right? That's Pennsylvania. So we recently got what, maybe 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago, we are now allowed to hunt big game on Sundays. We get 3 Sundays a year, one in archery season for deer, one in bear season with rifle, and one Sunday for deer with rifle.
Wow.
The rest of the year, the only thing you can hunt on Sundays, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong because I don't hunt them, crows, coyotes, and groundhogs.
No groundhogs.
No groundhogs on Sunday.
No.
Okay, see, I was wrong.
Yeah. No groundhogs on Sunday.
That's wild.
We have 3 now, though. That's 3 more than we had a couple years ago. A couple years ago, we had absolutely no Sunday hunting for any big game.
See, this is a sore spot with me when it comes to this. This kind of gets me on a rant because the Farm Bureau in the state of Pennsylvania is the ones who are pushing this to keep it no Sunday hunting because they think that the animals and the farmers need a rest. I have talked to hundreds of farmers, and there's not a single farmer out there that told me that I cannot come hunt coyotes on his property on Sunday. I said, "Can I hunt big game on your property too if they ever allow?" There, he said, "There's no days off when you hunt." He said, "If you want to hunt deer on a Sunday," he said, "you should be allowed." I said, "Well, your farm bureau is the ones who don't want us to do this." So it gets into a whole big controversy. I've tried to get the Farm Bureau on the podcast to talk to them. They will not return my emails or anything like that. So I know some people that work for them, and they've probably told the people that I wanted to talk to them and why I wanted to talk to them. So instead of them getting on here and me embarrassing them, they don't want to do it.
It's just, yeah, you get used to the way things are, and you don't. It's easy just to accept it. But
Yeah.
that one blew me away.
I started going to West Virginia and Ohio.
Yeah, every other state around us allows Sunday hunting, and they wonder why our hunting license sales are down across the state. You can go for us here, we're in Western Pennsylvania. We're an hour south of Pittsburgh. We can be in Maryland, West Virginia, and Ohio within an hour to hour and a half.
Yeah.
I assume you can fish on Sunday, right?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
allowed to fish.
We're not that crazy here in the state.
Yeah.
Not yet.
But tell me how that makes sense. You can go catch a fish on Sundays. Can't go hunt a turkey or a deer.
I'm sorry I'm laughing. I mean, it's not
No,
funny to you guys, but
It is.
It's comical. And they, for us, we really try to push youth hunting.
Yeah.
Getting kids into the outdoors. And I have two boys. They're, into sports and Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And a lot of times, Saturday and Sunday is the only day I can get them to go hunting. And one of those 2 days we're not allowed. And half the time the other Saturdays have baseball or basketball or something else going on. So it's laughable that in 2024, we are not allowed to hunt on Sundays. Not private land, not public land. Like, I could understand maybe a little bit if you wanted to restrict our public game land, but you own a piece of property, you're not allowed to hunt it on Sunday, whether it's yours or not, which is crazy.
It is.
We can go check traps on Sundays. We have to. We got a 36-hour check. So I can go dispatch an animal in a trap on Sunday, but I can't shoot a deer. Makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, in Minnesota, it used to be you could not check traps after sunset or before daylight, sunrise. And that's still intact, but it's been liberalized a little bit. But the only reason they said it was to prevent poaching, which really is pretty weak,
Yeah.
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 And so as kids in high school and you're basically forced to break the law. Yeah. If you wanted to go after your passion, you were forced to break the law.
Yep. And I heard something today that they are trying to stop mountain lion and bobcat hunting in Colorado.
Yeah, I think I had heard that too.
I don't want to get political about this, but we know where this is going and who's pushing for this.
Mm-hmm.
And if this happens there, then it's just going to be a downfall for the hunting across the United States. Because once they do that, it's just going to go downhill from there.
Yep.
They're going to get whatever they want.
Well, there's fewer. Every state that falls, there's one less to attack.
Yeah.
So the money can be focused on other states.
Well, didn't they did something, wasn't it in Minnesota? Dove hunting or something like that? You're not allowed to dove hunt? Or they were trying to stop dove hunting in Minnesota?
Dove hunting has always been very, very an emotional topic. And I don't think you could dove hunt in South Dakota 30, 40 years ago. And there's something about the dove.
Yeah.
And so I don't know about Minnesota, but I do remember when you were allowed to hunt doves finally in South Dakota. The mourning dove. Of course, now we have a lot of Eurasian doves here, but it's just more recreation for people, and it's a healthy recreation. You'll go out after work. The days are still kind of long in September, and take your kids or whatever. Take your dog because it's an easy retrieve for a young dog, and go miss a few because they're kind of hard to hit.
I've sat in a field and went through 2 boxes of shells in an afternoon and only killed 6 doves.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad percentage. You have to see me.
I'm trying to look it up and see where it was, since I opened my mouth and brought it up.
Well, while Rob's looking that up, I do have a question here for you. Now, when you started into the replaceable blades, because you have a bunch of them now, did you roll those out one at a time, or was that kind of like, here's all of them?
No, there was one at a time. and we came out first with the Boss Dog knife, and that's the fixed blade. It doesn't fold, and because at that time I was after the hunting market. Now, excuse me, I was not after the hunting. It was the trapping market. And nowadays, um, we feel, we love the trapping market, but the hunting market is far bigger. And so we brought these out one at a time, and we've uh, we've had good success with them. We have started going through every single knife before it sells for quality control reasons. And so our hands have touched every single replaceable blade knife that is sold. That kind of in itself is how I made my finger look like that. But um, watching a football game going through knives and just making sure every knife we sell is decent. So that was the pathway. First trapping, and then guys started using them on deer and elk and even buffalo. And we thought, yeah, we gotta pursue the hunting market.
Now, do you have a favorite other than the Talc? I'm assuming that one might be your favorite because you've mentioned it a lot. Do you have another one that is with you a majority of the time?
Yeah, I mean, even though it's not handy to carry, I like the Boss Dog, the fixed blade, and so when I'm on the road and skinning, I just have it's like a small steel. Um, it's a tackle box, is what it is, with my skinning apparatus, and so most guys would say, well, that's not very handy, and keep it in their shop. But that I just love the handle. It's a very comfortable handle, and I can. Um, it's been the last decade mostly coyotes and muskrats, and so I'm always close to my truck, and so I can just dig it out and and use that. So that would be my favorite. Um, but then, as far as the folding knives, I like the Red Fox, and that's got a soft, real easy on the hands handle. Um, we don't I don't know if we bring that through like on our website, but people that feel it, that's the one they pick because of that handle. It's just easy. It grips nice, but you don't have to force your grip. That's the thing about a knife handle that's not suited for long hours of use. I mean, you may have to, at different angles, grip it harder, and that, even though you aren't thinking about that, it consumes your strength and it consumes your focus too.
Yeah, now I gave my one buddy the Red Fox, and he loves that knife. And also, I told him when I handed it to him, I said, "Look, I said, I'm telling you now, these blades are ridiculously sharp. As the motto goes, they are wicked sharp." He texted me a couple hours later and said, "You weren't lying." I said, "I told you."
Yeah, when I'm a little bit of a worrier, and so when I give somebody a knife, I always ask them, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Keep them out of reach because they're not very forgiving. And we go to these shows, these trade shows, and I feel like I have to have the actual blades on them so people can see them. And but boy, I'm always got my eye on the kids walking by because those knives are on display, and yeah, they just are like you say, extremely sharp. And one of my associates, he's uh, he's actually a cardiac a heart surgeon. He does heart surgery, and he kind of retired now, but he's a trapper too. He loves to trap, and he's never come with me, but he was always going to find me out west somewhere. But he uses our knives, and he said, "Well, I'm used to having a scalpel in my hand."
Well, it is. it's Michigan, New York, and New Jersey are all dove hunting bans. You
Okay.
can't dove hunt in those states, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
No, it
They're a
it
good
doesn't.
eating bird.
Yeah, the populations I assume are fine. It's it's just.
Yeah, they would have to be.
I think it's. Don't you think it's probably the fact that doves are associated with peace? They're,
Uh, probably,
yeah,
probably.
and so
Yeah,
I mean, but still, it's still weird.
I I don't know. I take the tasting good part over top of the piece, and if it tastes good, you should eat
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Well, we know for sure that Jesus ate fish and
Yes.
distributed
Yep.
it. I don't know if he
Yep.
did anything with doves, but we know he ate fish.
Yeah. So, how did you guys come up with the processing kit? Where did that idea come
Oh,
from?
the like for well, you mean like the for the deer processing
Yeah, the
kit?
deer processing kit. Yeah.
So as far as the knives and stuff in it,
Yeah,
or
I love that thing.
okay, okay, I'm with
Yeah,
you
you guys
because
got to quit running such good specials because every time you run a great special, we wind up spending money. You guys had that on sale for Christmas,
Yeah.
that's
and as
right.
soon as I saw it, I texted him. I'm like, "All right, here we go. We're getting more knives." And we got them a couple days later and put them to work immediately.
Yeah.
Well, and I shopped around and I travel overseas. You know, our stuff does come from Asia, most of it. Um, but I actually go to these places and I sit in the factories and I've sat at sewing machines before and you know they're all talking a different language, so I'm sure they're making fun of me somehow. But I mean I do a lot of business and I know these people and if there's a one if there's a lack of quality, I'm on them. They want my business. They know not to do it again. But how did we come up with that processing kit? Well, it's got 5 pieces, and I found it with one of my vendors, and it's odd. Most of my vendors, and she owns 2 companies. Um, they're mostly women, and so I go see them, and she's always ready to show me something new, and so I just loved the. There's one knife in particular. Of course, as a trapper, it's that one that fits. You put your 2 fingers on it, and it's perfect for beaver. If you're
Yeah.
used to using a rounded knife, and so I had her send me one then after I got home because getting stuff through customs and everything is hard, and so we just liked them. They sell well. People are never dissatisfied with that kit, ever. And there's a lot of them out there, and so I guess that's how we came up with it. I was just in this lady's in the upstairs of her factory, and she has kind of a showroom.
I like it because it's all in one sheath. I throw that thing in my backpack, and it don't take up any space. And I mean the blade's on everything. That saw cuts through a pelvis in a matter of seconds. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of value there.
Great product. And then I used,
You know where my big game processing kit is right now?
huh?
In the center console of my truck.
At least you know where it's at.
Well, it's one of those things like hunting season. I'm like, Rob, it was in my bag or it was in, if we had one of the side by sides, it was in there. But afterwards, I left it in my truck because I always knew where it was. We
Yeah,
needed a knife. I knew where a knife was. I
yeah.
knew where a sharp knife was. I can pull out a bunch of dull knives out of my truck. But I knew where that was. That's where it's now. It's in the center console of my truck. So don't reach your hand in there rooting around for nothing.
I wish I'd have had mine with me a couple weeks ago. I found a huge, huge whitetail buck laying on the side of the road. Got hit by a car and had two drop tines on it. I called the game warden, and he said to me, he said, "Well, take the head off, and I'll meet you over your house, and I'll give you a tag." I said, "Well, I got to run home and get a sawzall because I ain't got a friggin' knife with me." I drive all the way home, grab my sawzall, drive all the way back to where the deer was, and guess what? The whole deer was gone. Whoever found this deer after me figured, you know what? I ain't got a saw. I'm taking the whole deer. He took the whole thing.
You snooze, you
But two
lose, I
days later,
guess.
we found out who had it, and he got a permit to keep the rack.
Yeah.
So, and I thought it was funny. I found the thing laying there after a snow melt, and I'm like, man, this unbelievable rack. I'm running home and getting my sawzall. Well, guess what? The sawzall's in the truck and ain't gonna leave the truck now.
Hey, can I tell you a little bit about Bob the dog?
Sure.
Can you see him?
Yeah. His mohawk.
Yeah. Bob has been to 45 states. He's been to 5 provinces in Canada, and he's been to the Arctic Circle. He's
The
been
Arctic
around.
Circle.
Most of the time he
What were you
sleeps.
guys doing in the Arctic Circle?
Well, we were in Alaska, and I love exploring, and so and I was in a van with 250,000 miles, and my wife flew up there to meet me. She was still working. She didn't have the flexibility I do, but so it was me and Bob, and I just wanted to go to the Arctic Circle, and there's a road that it's not a very good road, but you can drive it, and you're in the middle of nowhere. There are trucks that come by, but so it was me, her, and Bob, and it started out forest, and then it turned into tundra. And there is a sign when you get to the edge of the Arctic Circle. And by the way, that tundra, Rob, you're old enough to remember that science fiction show, Lost in Space.
Yep.
That's what it looked like up there. Yeah, and so anyway, Bob got to go to the Arctic Circle, and but he goes everywhere with me. He's with me at work, and he's a good dog. I mean, I think he's 13, and we're both getting old together, and so that's okay.
Well, Bob's on the TV show with you too, isn't he?
Yeah, and a lot of times he'll travel with me. So if I'm on somebody's coyote line, he's in the back seat of the truck with their truck, and we have I have it's a pretty ugly. I call it a pervert van because it looks terrible, but it's fairly dependable, and we have a bunk in there, so we at times we'll sleep in there, and he just travels so good. It's just fun having for me. It's fun having a dog along because Bob just makes me feel good, and I'm probably a better person when he's with me.
And you do what it's called Wiebe Trapline Adventures.
Yes, we'll be we'll be starting our 5th season come September. It's everything's filmed right now, and so and it has very good ratings, and of course our goal is to promote Wiebe, promote the knives, and we know that the hunting crowd watches it too. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. People that watch it know I have a little bit off the wall sense of humor, and so it's fun for me to be able to show my creativity and when you think of it, as an outdoor person, in particular, if you're a trapper, I get to go with some of the best trappers ever, and I'm just tagging along. I mean, that's a good gig. Yeah, I got to get to them, and but I'm just tagging along, and sometimes I'm running the camera. Sometimes Chad, the cameraman, comes with me. I went with Phil Brown, and I did a coyote show with him in South Dakota, but then I did a bobcat show with him in the Southwest. And I kind of get a kick out of this. I don't think Phil was impressed with me, but he, Phil, if you know who Phil Brown is, he's from Pennsylvania, and he's probably 3 years younger than me, but he's in really good shape. Been a cement mason all his life. Well, I flew down there and had trouble getting there, and I was tired, the high elevation. And so Phil had to walk up on this mountainside to check a bobcat trap, a couple traps. And he said he could tell I was struggling. He said, "Why don't you stay here? And if I have a bobcat, I'll get out on that point and I'll wave my arms." And it was quite a hike up there, and I fell asleep in the truck. and, and so he's out there waving his arms, and I'm just out of it. And so he had to walk down because he had a bobcat, and he had to walk down and wake me up. uh, so I hope he didn't seem mad, but if I'd have done it twice, he maybe would have been.
Now that I seen you were doing some with the fur life too, right? Was it
No,
the
I
fur life?
haven't. I haven't done anything with them.
Uh,
I think I was. Well, I was on North American Trapper at once.
yeah, with Alan.
Yeah. And he was in South Dakota filming, and I was trapping muskrats in the spring at the time. You know, it is amazing that there's trapping shows on TV. I mean, I never. I don't think if somebody would have come before me, I would have ever thought, you know, of doing it. Um, hunting shows, yeah. And when I approached Pursuit Channel, they said, well, if you were doing a deer hunting show, we'd say good luck because there's a lot of them out there. But trapping on
Yeah,
TV, it's a little different concept, but I think it's been healthy.
I noticed like we do a lot of our own filming and stuff like that. I've noticed the stuff we put on YouTube when it comes to our trapping gets more views than our deer hunts and our turkey hunts.
Yeah, that
You
doesn't
know,
surprise me.
I was showing Matt the other day, just me on a trap line check one morning. We had got, I don't know, 3 inches of rain in 2 days, and we had raccoon sets in this dry creek bed. Well, it wasn't a dry creek bed when I got there. You know, all my traps were underwater. But that little reel that I put on Facebook and YouTube and all that, it got over 20,000 views.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, just, me walking along with my cell phone showing people that the creek is flooded and I can't check my traps because they're under 6 feet of water,
Hmm.
you know? And then 2 days later, when it finally dried up, I had two drowned raccoons that were stuck in dog proofs that drowned in the rain.
Yep.
But, it's crazy that more people seem to be interested in watching the trapping end of it, and I kind of like it because we need more trappers. We're getting older. We're not going to be doing this.
Well,
You
you
know,
know how you had to struggle to learn back in the day when you
yeah,
before you had gray hair.
yep,
And so nowadays it's different. I mean, it's not about making a living anymore for the most part, and people, it's gone from people selling it to you. At first, in my day, very few people would sell it,
mm-hmm,
and then it went to books, to videos, and now YouTube, and people are seeing it and they say, "Man, I'd like to try that. It doesn't look that hard."
yeah.
And I really believe that's what's kept the trapping industry alive is all that information out there.
And I tell Matt every year, I'm done. I'm not going to do it no more. I'm hanging it up. You know, and come the end of deer season, I'm pulling traps out of the shed, and it's like, okay, you guys ready to start running a trap line? You know, I've been doing it for so long, I can't stop doing
Well,
it.
and but those days when you had that gully washer, that's what we call them out here.
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's kind of like, okay, these coon really aren't worth much, and I got to skin them, and now you got 6 feet of water over the traps. I mean, that's disheartening.
Yep. Yep.
Well, you don't have a choice about going out next year because the boys are interested, and
Yeah.
you can't quit now.
No, I think that's kind of like you know, brought me back to wanting to redo it. Watching them, getting the phone calls and the pictures and, them calling me and saying, hey, we got another one tonight, and I got them calling them Rickies instead of raccoons. So,
That does it's a whole new world when you see it through somebody else's eyes.
yeah. Yeah. And when they got their first red fox in a snare this year in a cable restraint, oh my. To me, that was better than Christmas morning,
I bet
you
that was
know.
wild. Yeah, I bet that was really fun.
I think, didn't you get some of it on video?
Yeah, a little bit. I kind of forgot to film because I was so excited. And now I got we still have, we run our trail cameras pretty much year round. And my youngest, Colton, he gets mad now because we're still getting pictures of raccoons on the trail camera. And he's mad we didn't catch them all.
Yeah. I told him, I said to him, I'm like, look, buddy, I said, we got enough raccoons. I said, we got so many raccoons in the freezer that we skun that we got a flesh yet. Let's lay off the raccoons for a little bit here. And then he put traps out for the last week of the season again to catch a couple more.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
couldn't.
And then they got their red fox, and then they got another red fox. And then I had set a deep trench set over on our deer lease because we got a ton of coyotes over there. And I wanted to try this deep trench set that AJ Averon does. So I went and I set this thing, and I think it was 13 or 14 days. And I'm like, man, there's nothing touching this trap. I just don't understand. I mean, it's like in the middle of a cut soybean field, you see this big crater in the ground. It's got to be attracting them, you know? So I put a camera on it, a cell cam. The first night I put the cell cam on there, I had a coyote walk 3 feet, walked a circle around it, smelled it, peed all over the place, and he left. The next night, here comes a red fox. Red fox walks over. He looks down in the hole. The next thing I know, my cell cam's going off every 2 seconds. I caught this red fox. So I got up in the middle of the night, went and got it because my phone wouldn't quit pinging. So I went over there, got this red fox, reset the set. That morning while I was at work, that coyote came back, smelled that set, peed all over the place, and left. 2 days ago, I have another camera in that same spot. Now that we got traps pulled, that coyote is finally digging in the bait hole up there. He's finally got comfortable enough with that being there that now he wants in there.
Wow.
So bad part is a farmer is going to disc everything up here in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be gone, and I'll have to redo it next year.
Yeah, that's wild stuff. I mean, I tell you that those game cams are every bit as addicting as whether you're fishing or hunting or trapping. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah. And I like them because you learn things like stuff that we never got to see. The way a coyote acts when you first put a trap in, a new set, man, it's crazy how they'll come up and smell it. And, you know, I mean, I've actually watched them take a crap on top of them. And it's like, man, you know, I still have yet to see one dig one up and flip it over. You know, the only thing I've ever seen do that is raccoons.
Well, Phil Brown had a short video. This is way back in the early days of trail cams with the night vision and everything. But he had a red fox dig it up, dig the trap up. And so then the trail cam timed out, and the trap was out of the bed, pulled to the side, as I recall. So when the video cam came back on, the fox had gotten caught in that very trap he had dug out. It was very revealing for a
Wow.
variety of reasons, but um, one of them was that Phil Brown, who's caught 23,000 fox or so, he routinely gets diggers.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's from.
Oh, I believe, and again, this hypothesis, I believe it's just from the fresh dirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I talk to older trappers around here. They'll tell me it's all you got sent on the trap.
I don't believe that for a second. And I have reasons to support why I believe that, but I don't believe that for a second. And the day I quit worrying about that was pretty early in my career. And to this day, I don't do any of that stuff of boiling your traps. I just take them out and use them.
Yeah. See, we boiled traps last year because he wanted to know the whole process. I quit boiling traps after I become friends with Alan. And you watch Alan's video, he's spitting Copenhagen and everything else on the ground right where he's putting traps in. And talking to him personally, I said to him one day, I'm like, man, I see you boil and dye your traps. I said, why do you waste your time? He's like, I do that for instructional purposes. He says, I'll throw a rusty trap in the ground and catch just as many coyotes with that rusty trap
Yeah,
that
well,
you will with boiled and
my
waxed.
buddy Dan Roberts, and when coyote prices were good, he would approach 2 years in a row. He was close to 700 coyotes. But he starts off with clean traps, but then as he moves, and he goes to up by the Canadian border and then down to Texas. And so when he moves, he doesn't do anything to them. They just get reset.
Yep.
And if it's warm, he don't wear the gloves. And that's not why I've arrived at my conclusion. Part of my reason is, one, I'm lazy, and two, um, this is the biggest reason. This clicked for me would have been 1978 probably, and we had a season in Minnesota, and so I preset quite a nice line of fox sets. I didn't bait them or lure them. I had no clue that I was going to have a pile of critters come opening day. No bait, no lure. I thought opening day, this will be a breeze. I'm just going to run through and put lure and bait in them, and then I'll start catching. Well, the catching started before that, and I'm convinced they were drawn by the dirt, the fresh dirt. I'm convinced of it. I can't prove it, but I'm convinced of it. And
I'd I'd have to agree with you because I know I'm going to relate this to deer hunting because if we go out there and make a mock scrape and don't put no scent in it, just a spot that we're going to start a mock scrape in, that fresh dirt smell attracts them whitetail bucks to there.
interesting.
So, and that's from having trail cameras on there without putting scent or anything in them. I've noticed, we'll scrape an area or rake it, and that night we'll get every buck that walks through the area. He'll automatically go right to that spot.
That's really interesting.
And I think it's from the fresh dirt smell, just like you're saying with the foxes.
Yeah.
I believe it is. There's something in that dirt that them animals like.
Yeah, and it's not only fox and coyotes, but it's coon and skunks and possums, I believe. I've thought about
It's,
setting a line out just for the show and not using bait or lure, just to prove the point. But again, I'm rather lazy, so
I think we all get that way after a while.
yeah.
I know I get that way halfway through the trapping season. I want to go put the sets in and get it over with and get it done. And after you check traps for weeks on end, and most of my line I walk, I don't drive it. Because we're
Oh,
still
sure.
deer hunting on that property. So
The with doing the show, the one common denominator I thought it was just me over the years, over my career, but these guys, they always try and have a. I always try and go and be there for when the line is fresh and it's going to produce the best.
Yeah.
And I've always gotten on my own trap lines really nervous when the catch is too good because am I going to be able to handle the fur if it's too much? And
Mm-hmm.
I see that in some of these other trappers I go with. And I went with a guy in northern Minnesota, and he was wanting to show his best. He was trapping beaver. He's wanting to show his best stuff. He caught 61 beavers that day, and in fact, he busted a spring on his truck. Um, but fortunately, he had a fur buyer that was buying in the carcass, and so he didn't have to worry about that. But typically, with me, I'm skinning and freezing, and I'm not a super fast skinner like some guys. I'm okay, but you start getting nervous when the catch is too good.
Mm-hmm.
61, that's a lot of replaceable blades to go through.
Yeah, it was a long day, and I wasn't. I was just filming. Yeah, he's an animal, and I mean, very ambitious, and yeah, it was impressive.
So did you get to go down there and do any alligator hunting
Yes.
with
Well, yes and no.
oh geez, why am I drawing a blank?
Well, it's Ronnie Adams,
Yeah.
Swamp People, and then
Yep.
Jacob Landry joined us too. We were nutria hunting, and I tell you, that's you get you get older and you get excited about some things, but most of them you've done before. Well, Ronnie owns an airboat, which I've never been in one before. He lives in the swamp. His house is on stilts in the swamp. He's got power to it and everything. Um, to get to it, you have to go by boat to get to his house. That's Ronnie and Jacob, the two I know from Swamp People. They're the real deals. I mean, they've lived their lives on the swamp. Well, anyway, there's a $6 nutria bounty, and so it's a big deal down there. Come, I don't know when the season runs, but you go out, and a lot of the guys own airboats, and so that's a guy thing anyway. I mean, an airboat. Any guy's going to love an airboat. And then you
Mm-hmm.
got a shotgun with you, and you're shooting out of a moving airboat. And of course, you're giving everybody's giving each other crap about when they miss, and yeah, it was a whole lot of fun, and it was starting to warm up, so the alligators were coming out. They were kind of slow, but there was alligators all over the place. Yeah, it was an absolute experience. Yeah, and those airboats are so loud. You wear the ear protection because of the airboat, and even with the headphones or the ear protectors, it still tickles your ear a little bit. They're so loud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you eat any of the nutrients?
no, and Jacob, who is a very good cook, he he had brought rabbits. Him and his boys had harvested, and he made some French dish out of them. And but nutria is pretty good. I've had Red O'Hearn cook it before, and I don't think it's quite as good as beaver, but it's very very edible. I mean, you could.
Yeah, when I was in Louisiana, the company I worked for, we do a lot of power plants and stuff like that. And I was in Louisiana and I ate nutria. One of the millwrights lived there in Louisiana, and he brought some in and we had it. And I'll tell you what, I was shocked how good it actually tasted. You know.
Yeah, nothing surprises me anymore. And then too on the marsh there's wild hogs, and of course
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants them there. But so the other airboat, the small hogs are, I'm told, delicious. I've eaten big ones before, but they shot a 20-pounder and cooked that up, and it's little hogs are very good, and they're very desirable, much more than the big hogs.
Now, how did you guys get hooked up with Ronnie and Jacob from Swamp People?
Well, we sponsor both of those. Wiebe Knives sponsors both of those guys, and as it turns out, we have a lot in common, myself and in those two, because everything I've done in my life has been very close to the land. I mean, my career was with the Game Fish and Parks of South Dakota. Before I hired on with them when I was 28, I was a trapper. I worked for the National Park Service in the summer, so I could trap in the fall and winter. Everything I've done, well, they're the same way. I mean, you see Jacob and Troy. That's their way of life. It's the swamp. They aren't actors. They're real. And the same for Ronnie. The only time he's really been away from the swamp is when he played college football, and so they're just very comfortable in that environment. And I'm the same way here. That environment was new, but that's we sponsor them, but then we have a lot in common too.
Now, one tool we haven't talked about that I do want to take a minute here to talk about is the multi-tool.
Yep, the Wiebe Sidekick, we call
it. That thing is on my hip every day.
Yeah, you get used to having one with you, and I'm a little bit different than most guys because I max out at trying to keep track of three things, and so in my life it's been a challenge keeping track of my wallet, my keys, and nowadays my cell phone. But I do keep one in the truck, but guys, the normal guys that know just what's in their pocket, and that could be a knife. Yeah, you're just used to having them, and we're fairly new in that market, but we know this tool is good. We know it's very solid, and we price it right, and so the guys that use it, they find it very useful.
I love it. I'm actually gonna order another one to throw in my trap basket. That way, I have one in my trapping basket.
I can't even fathom not losing one in the trap basket.
Yeah, because usually I have mine on me, on my hip for work, and after work I come home, I change my clothes and go check my trap line, and sometimes I don't wear the same belt, so it usually sits on my dresser. But
well, and I'm around some of these guys that just are so organized, and Red O'Hearn is one of those guys. And you guys probably know who Red is at minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But we're like the odd couple, and I know I drive him crazy, and sometimes it's on purpose. But he knows where everything's at, and he's very very tidy, and I'll I'll let if I've been around him for a few days, just to get on his nerves, I'll let Bob drink out of my water cup, and but he knows where everything's at, and I don't know where anything's at, and it's I'm ADD, and that's not always a bad thing, but it's just tough for me to keep track of everything. I do get into a rhythm on the trap line, and I do find things from years previous, but I have managed to get by.
Well, Matt, you know all about losing tools on a trap line.
Yeah, but it wasn't my fault. I have two helpers that grab tools that I don't realize they have, and then I go to put a new trap in and I don't have a tool. Well, I'm actually a little nervous because I lost one of my stake drivers for the fangs on that we use on our dog proofs. I am petrified that my buddy is going to find that in the middle of his field with the tractor.
Yeah, well, I don't want to make you lose sleep, but hopefully he doesn't puncture like a $2,000 tire.
If it's a tire, I'd be okay with that. What I'm more worried about is him catching it in one of the implements that's behind the tractor.
Yeah, Adam's an all right guy. He won't get too upset about it.
And that's as a dad myself, that's all part of the equation when you have kids.
Hey, wait till they start getting in the toolbox and you start losing 10 millimeter rent
Oh yeah,
socket
kids never put
wrenches.
things back. No, neither do wives.
They will not be allowed to work in the garage without me present because you've seen my tools in the garage. They are organized.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it's gonna happen. You know it's gonna happen.
Nope, not going to happen. He yells at me when he's working on something in the garage because he'll put something down, a wrench, a ratchet, a socket, and I go put it away.
Yeah.
He said, "I wasn't done with that." Well, you know where it's at when you need it again.
Oh
You
yeah,
don't just leave that laying on the ground.
yeah.
But yeah, they didn't do too bad. We just lost that one driver and the S hook pliers, but I found those
Yeah.
because one of them took yours
Yeah.
and laid it somewhere.
Yep.
And I found it at one of our cable restraints.
Yeah.
So we didn't do too bad losing tools.
Oh, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I've lost two guns, and I never carry expensive guns. It's just utility type guns. But the one I did find in the spring, it was snowing, and I lost that, and of course it was rusty, and my dad fixed it all up for me. But the other one, I never could find that. It was, it's gone. It's just how it is.
Now, speaking of snow, I want to pick your brain on this because I'm very curious. When you're setting a trap, do you set them out into an open field a lot of times, or are you always in the woods?
Oh no, we aren't wooded like you are.
Well, that's what I thought. So my question is, how do you know where that trap is? Because I had a trap that disappeared for 3 months, and I had to use a damn metal detector to find it.
Yeah. Oh,
So how do you locate those, or how do you mark those traps to where you know where they're at?
it's harder out in western South Dakota where you're in a new area and it's really rugged, remote area, but it gets to the point where every time you're checking traps, I mean, I do use GPS, but if there's snow, and a GPS only gets you so close, and snares are really tough. Snares are
Yeah.
much harder, but the I always, if I'm having a little trouble, I always just say, well, where would I set it if I set new? And it's almost always right on. I mean, it's almost always right on. The snares are the tricky parts because you cannot lose a snare in cattle country. You cannot. Um, it's going to cause you problems. And it might have been 7 years ago now. We had I misjudged the weather, and it was out west, 300-400 miles from home, and a blizzard, a blowing storm came in, and a lot of the snares I couldn't find, and so my plan was, and there was drifts. I couldn't even get around with tracks on my side by side. It was too dicey, and so I went back 3 times in the spring. I had a lot of anxiety about cattle because in the spring they turn the cattle just loose in all these huge pastures, and this ranch was 50,000 acres roughly, and they had 2,000 head of cattle. But anyway, I went back 3 times as the weather warmed up, and each time I was able to get to more snares. The last time I went back, and it was almost the last snare, and by gosh, I had a calf by the foot in that snare, and it was very freshly caught. And I didn't really want to call the rancher to help me. I'm not a cow person. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to go for broke and tackle this thing. But I hit it and it wasn't moving. But it got wrapped up enough around a cedar tree where I was able to get right to the hoof without any danger and cut it off. And I was so glad that I was so persistent in going back looking for those snares, because that was my worst fear. And the rancher would have never missed that calf because they're free ranging out there. The coyotes would have got it and killed it. But I would have eventually known. And so that's why you can't lose a snare. You can't ever set a snare with even a cable restraint in a pasture with cows, because they're going to find it.
Yep. Yep. We had there's a gas line that runs through our deer lease, and I had just set cables on Monday, and the gas line came through on Thursday and mowed it and ate up a dozen cable restraints with their tractor. And when I got over there to check that afternoon, the guy was up in our parking area and he's underneath there and he's MFing and everything else. And I said to him, I said, "What's the problem, buddy?" He says, "Oh, I was cutting that power line back there." He says, "I got all this wire wrapped up underneath my." I said, "What do you mean you got all this wire wrapped up underneath your mower?" And I see all these cable restraints. I said, "Those are my cable restraints." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You people didn't think to like let us know that you were planning on doing this or anything like that?" He's like, "Well, I'm sorry." I said, "But you just ruined my tractor." I said, "Well, you know what?" I said, "Have a nice day." I said, "That'll teach you to go friggin' mowing stuff like that in the middle of the trapping season." Now I had to call Alan and say, "Hey, send me a couple more dozen of those because tractor just ate a bunch of them up."
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that's quite a story.
well, buddy, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hang out with us and BS a little bit. And we are glad that we are partners with you guys. We really appreciate that. And if you want to let people know where they can find more information about you, your trapline, the trapline adventures, and Wiebe Knives.
Well, we're of course we have a website. We have Facebook pages, both for Wiebe Trapline Adventures and Wiebe Knives, and we have a small presence on YouTube as well. And I might mention, we were talking about the learning curve earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a site called Fur Taker TV, and it
Okay.
is a subscription base. But we have, people aren't. A lot of people are getting out of their DVDs. They don't have DVD players. And so you can go to this, and I mean, we got a lot of the big name DVDs on there. And so for $10 a month, you can watch all the trapping you want, some of the best trappers ever, and so that's another presence we have on the web.
Okay.
Well, hang out with us here for just a couple more minutes. We got a couple bills to pay here, buddy.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you got your list ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Oh, man, you're ahead of me tonight.
Creek archery. Find your passion, then hunt it down. It's that time of year to get your bow down there, get new strings, new cables, new arrows, new broadheads. Hunting season's right around the corner. Get ready. All the new major bow manufacturers are down there at Creek Archery, along with Morel targets. We got Valor arrows. We're coming up with a bunch of different Ultra arrows are down there now. They have all kinds of new equipment. So stop down there, see Chris and them guys. They will take care of you. They will get everything set up for you. Creek Archery. Find your passion, then hunt it down.
Hillview Motors, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. New, used, certified, pre-owned. Head in to and talk to anybody at the fantastic sales team. They'll get you a test ride, trade-in appraisal, and have you back on the road in your new vehicle before you know it. Head back to the service center for all your service-related issues, maintenance, tires, oil changes, you name it. They'll take care of you back there. If you've hit one of these unfortunate critters or anything else that has damaged your vehicle, head back to the collision center, certified to work on many makes and models, not just what they sell on the lot. Check out the full inventory at hillviewmotors.com, and remember, Hillview has it.
www.duketraps.com, the only trap that we use here on the Keystone Experience. Bill Duke and those guys down there, they'll get you set up with all kinds. They got 40 different traps. They have the best-selling trap, the DP trap. Get yourself a DP, give it to a kid for Christmas, buy him a bag of marshmallows and turn him loose on trash pandas, and he's going to be hooked for trapping the rest of his life. So get a hold of Bill and them guys. Get yourself some Duke traps.
We got your buddy coming up here next.
Deer P. Dave.
With Apparition Sens.
Yes, sir. 100% lethal.
Got to get your mock scrape started. Get the hemp rope, the Undertaker, and the Nightmare. Keep that inventory of your deer herd going through your cameras. Once deer season does hit, we've got the Inferno.
Inferno, Dead Red. They all.
Nosy Whitetail.
Nosy Whitetail. This stuff works. I mean.
And don't forget your Phantom Hunter.
Phantom Hunter. We use it. I use it for trapping. You know, there's times that I'll just spray down a trap that had a little bit of blood on it and throw it right back in the ground. So give Dave a holler. Dave will get you set up with some of this Apparition scent. 100% lethal.
We got Chico Outdoors. Chico Outdoors is a nonprofit organization promoting outdoor recreational activities for veterans and youth. It's in honor of Andrew Chico Christ. His family is continuing on his legacy and his love for the outdoors and getting younger generations involved. Chico Outdoors has grown into an organization that hosts an annual outdoor expo in April of each year, but promotes outdoorsmanship year-round, believing younger generation is the future of tomorrow and vital to continuing it for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Chico Outdoors sponsors and donates to many youth programs in the community, including kids fishing derbies, sporting teams, and other youth outdoor initiatives. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram, follow along, and help them keep this wonderful thing going.
Bow Creek Outdoors, Pennsylvania-based company, veteran-owned. They're the only trail cameras that we run. Right now, we're running the cell cameras. They are out 365 days a year with solar panels on them. We just got a bunch of BC-32s, which is a wide-angle camera. They are out on the gas lines looking for turkeys, looking for new deer hotspots. So get yourself some of these. They run on all three
platforms, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, so you can move that camera around and not have to worry about having signal.
You don't have to go buy 3 different SIM cards to run your trail cameras. Comes with one SIM card, plug it in, picks up the best tower, you're up and running. Easy setup. We got a video out there on YouTube of us setting these cameras up. Give Matt a call. Get yourself one of these. We have a discount code that'll get you 20% off. It is TKE20. So use it. It'll take care of your 20% off on your cell cameras. I believe the solar panels are included on that too. So look them up.
Well, we're getting into hunting season, so it's about time to put the Harleys away.
It's about time to put the Harleys away.
So we get ours up at Z&M. We service them up there. We get our parts from up there. Heck, we just like going up there and hanging out because they have a ton of activities. Make sure you're following Z&M Harley Davidson on Facebook for a full list of all the events that they've got going on and different things that are going to happen. Head in and check out any of the new 2024 bikes, any used inventory. You want to get some parts, accessories, go back there and talk to them. And if you need some service, they'll take care of you. They've got the Quick Express on Saturdays. No appointments necessary for basic maintenance and repairs. Check out the new website and follow along with them on Facebook, Z&M Harley Davidson.
Back 40 Seed Company, another Pennsylvania-based company. This seed's tested here in PA. We've been using it for 5 years now. The deer love these food plots when you put them in. We got clover. We got the hideaway blend. There's Uncle Al's fall blend, which has turnips, rape, good clovers in it. This stuff is unbelievable. I mean, we didn't touch our plots this year. We just did a little broadcast seeding early in the spring, and they're green as can be. So get yourself some of this. Roy will help you from the day you till the ground till the day you put the seed in the ground. He will tell you exactly what is going on. So get a hold of Roy. He'll hook you up with some of the best seed on the market.
You know what they say about our next partner, buddy? Their motto is, they're wicked sharp.
They're not from Boston.
Hey,
he does this every time, Mark. He sounds like they're from Boston, and you guys aren't from Boston.
I hear it when we started working with Wiebe Knives. The Sam Adams commercial was playing all the time. And that's just where it is. They're wicked sharp. No matter what accent you have, these knives are going to do the jobs. Surgical, precision blades, replaceable. We have abused these knives.
Yes.
Not on purpose necessarily, but we've put them to work. We will stand behind them. We love working with them. Check out everything they have to offer at wiebeknives.com. Make sure you follow them on Facebook and all the social medias. Do a ton of giveaways. Get you one of these. You know what? They're also a good knife to carry every single day. Yep. I carry the Monarch with me every day for all those medial tasks that I don't want to dull out my normal knife.
Yep, and I got the multi-tool on my hip every day. So look them up. Give them a holler. They got some of the best knives in the industry, and you will be happy with them. Trapline Beard Oil Company. As you can tell, we got beards. We use a lot of this product. Brian is an awesome guy to work with. Tons of different scents. They are coming out with a 1-ounce bottle line for the guy who wants to try all the different scents. So give Brian a call. Look him up. Facebook, Instagram. He will hook you up with some of the best beard products out there.
You know what, buddy? Sometimes things happen.
Yeah, like
that.
Not
turning my mic on.
Yeah, you forgot to turn the mic on.
Hey, you know what? That's what we have insurance for. Give the Kelton Black Agency a call to get all your homeowners, commercial, auto, you name it. We'll stumble through it.
Good thing this is live. Isn't live. It's being recorded.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? You have these things for a reason. You go talk to Kelton. He won't have these issues.
Kelton's a good guy.
He's going to make sure that you have the policies and coverages that you need, whether it's homeowners, farm, life insurance. We've worked with him for years. We trust him. Head over to his Facebook page, Kelton Black, representing American National, and do business with someone who cares.
Forget Genetics, a mineral company based in PA, veteran-owned, family-run. They got their own mill. These were developed by hunters for hunters. These are not cow minerals. These are minerals that actually benefit your whitetail. They help the does with milk. They help the bucks with growing antlers. Get yourself some of these products from the acorn flavored minerals, clean down to the salty log, the lollipops, the persimmon pops. This stuff can't be beat. I mean, there's tons of pictures. We have videos, hours of footage of deer just eating this stuff. I mean, as soon as we walk away from a mineral site, we're getting pictures 5 minutes after we're gone. So check his stuff out. Family based right here in Pennsylvania. Give them a call. They'll hook you up.
Gearhead Archery, rethinking tradition. Head over to gearheadarchery.com and check out the full lineup of the bows that Skip and the great people out there offer. From a short 24-inch carbon bow all the way up to a full-size target bow. Check them out. Get you a Gearhead, rethinking tradition. And we have Wilson's Wildlife Solutions. If you're looking to put a dent into some of the critters running your property, predators, nest raiders, make sure you get some of Wilson's Wildlife Solutions. Pennsylvania-based company that we're proud to be partnered with. We'll be using this year on the trap line. Check them out on Facebook and head over to their website to get you an order today.
And you have the Outdoor Call Radio app. If you like outdoor related content, this is the app for you. Download it on your Android or iOS device 24/7, 365 days a year. Outdoor content. Hunting, fishing, cooking, you name it.
And Dan talks about Bigfoot on there. So if you're into Bigfoot, just listen to Dan Young. He got a lot of Bigfoot stories.
Does a bunch of giveaways, so make sure you download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. And what does he say, Rob?
He says answer the call. So give this app a look. They, like I said, turkey hunts, deer hunts, Wiebe Knives. They give all kinds of stuff away on this app. If you want good content, this is where you're going to find it. We're on there on Wednesdays on a loop with two other great podcasts, George Lynch and Warden Watch. And then that's when Dan does his Bigfoot stuff and aliens. So check them out. It's a great app. You won't be disappointed.
And while you got your phone in your hand, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I believe we ain't been kicked off of TikTok yet.
Not yet.
And we still have the YouTube channel. New videos uploaded every 2 weeks with new episodes. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you get the notifications. Head over to the website for anything else that you may have missed, to KeystoneExperience.com. Get your merch at unityprinting.com/TKE. We appreciate all the support. Take us out of here, buddy.
Hey, remember, shoot straight and keep the dirty side down.